Starting a business can be an exciting adventure, but it's also fraught with many challenges. The reality is, most businesses will fail within the first few years of operation. According to a recent study done by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 23% of businesses will fail within the first year. Fast forward 5 years, 48% of businesses have faltered or failed. And 10 years down the road, up to 65% of businesses have gone under. Now, I know that statistic is scary, it's daunting, maybe a little overwhelming, but do not let that discourage you, because the statistics never tell the whole story. In this video, I'm going to explore with you 5 reasons why many businesses fail within the first few years of operation. I'm going to show you how some of these big businesses that we see around us have made similar mistakes, and I'm going to give you some strategies to overcome each of the 5 failure points. You're going to want to stick to the end because number 5 is really a doozy. Let's get into it. Number 1 is lack of market research. One of the most common reasons that businesses fail is because they do not do adequate market research. Now, what do I mean by that? There are a lot of entrepreneurs out there, especially in this day and age, that jump into trying to sell a product or service without fully realizing what their market looks like. If they don't know their target audience and they don't understand the demand signals coming from that audience. So without data-backed insights into your customers' needs, competitor analysis, and looking at industry trends, you're gonna miss the mark if you're trying to start your business. As a result, when you launch your product or service, you might end up launching something that's not really wanted by your target market because you don't really understand what they need. You don't really understand what they're looking for. So do we see an example of this in big business? Absolutely. If you look at Coca-Cola in the 1980s, they created a product that was not wanted by consumers. They decided to go in and reinvent the Coca-Cola recipe. Now, this was really dangerous. Why is it that they decided to do this? Well, they wanted to innovate. They wanted to do new things. They wanted to try to maybe bring in new customers, but they forgot that their existing customers is what built the company. And for the last few decades, that's what they had been relying on, was the original recipe. And when they changed the recipe, people hated it. There was an uproar. People just absolutely hated it. And maybe some of you watching this video today remember that actually happening. So what did they do? They had to go back to the original recipe. They wasted all that time in research and development, in marketing, not to mention just how much that cost, the manufacturing cost and all of that. And it was a huge cost to them. Luckily, they bounced back. So how do you do proper market analysis? So before starting any business, you're gonna wanna take the time to do thorough research, okay? Conduct surveys. I love surveys. Send them out to a large group of people. You don't want to just send them to your family and friends, okay? You need to try to get these surveys out to as many people as possible, send it out into the space, and see who's going to respond. You want a wide variety of respondents, especially if you're trying to sell in North America. Here in the United States specifically, there's large demographic differences between even just one city and another city in a state, because our states are so huge. So when you're thinking about that, you want to make sure that your surveys are covering the population. Your survey should be collecting a sample size of your population that adequately represent that population. So it's got to go out to a lot of people, not just friends and family. Don't get stuck there. And then you're going to want to make sure that you try out focus groups. Focus groups are fantastic. If you have a prototype or if you have a concept, get a focus group of who you believe your target audience is. Gather people who are not part of your target audience, maybe people who are outside of the age demographic that you think you're serving. But you want to make sure you tailor your focus group, that's why it's called focus, specifically to your target audience. It's good to pull in people that are not necessarily part of your target audience in order to gauge a wider perspective of your product, because maybe you can find through that focus group other areas in the market that you can serve, other customers that you can serve with your product or service. Next, you gotta know who your competitors are. You gotta know who your competitors are. You gotta know what they're offering and how they're selling their products, how they're marketing. You gotta use tools like Google Trends. That'll help you identify competitors and what's selling out there and where your product might fit into this ultra saturated market that we have in the world today. Look at social media. Listen, if you're not marketing through social media and you're not reaching out through social media, you should honestly start there. It's free. Before you even spend a dime or penny on your business, you should get into social media. Test your concept with people's reactions. Say, hey, this is a product I want to provide. Create a page, create a group, insert yourself into other groups on like Facebook, start posting videos on YouTube, get into LinkedIn and start looking around and researching the type of product that you provide and try to identify who your target market is and maybe what they want. And look at industry reports. I mean, they'll provide invaluable insights. They'll give you guidance. They'll give you strategies that you can make. They'll help you make informed decisions. So don't just make decisions haphazardly. Every decision you make for your business must be an informed decision, okay? Number 2, so this is another leading cause of failure to businesses within the first few years, insufficient capital and cash flow management. They have inadequate cash flow. What am I talking about? Small businesses often underestimate the power of capital, and the amount of capital is going to be required in order for them to get up off the ground and get going to sell their product or service. Now, this has become a lot easier with the online digital age, the digital revolution that we are in, where people are creating entire stores from the comfort of their home in their footy pajamas. But you're going to want to estimate properly the amount of capital that you're going to need for the first few years of operation. Don't just project out for a year, you need years. Especially when this comes to operating expenses, you've got overhead, marketing fees, you're gonna have maybe unexpected costs. Let me tell you, any time you have a business or any time you venture out to try something, you are going to have unexpected costs. You know, the Bible says that no person goes to build a tower without first counting the cost and understanding what it's going to take to build that tower. You gotta know how much it's gonna cost, and you gotta plan for it. And then you gotta estimate above and beyond your plan and plan for like at least 10 to 20% of extra unexpected costs. Without access to working capital, even the most profitable businesses will find themselves in hot water. So what's an example of that? So the Bank of New England started to fail in 1990. They reported a $1.2 billion loss. This happened because the bank was making risky real estate decisions. They went out and purchased real estate trying to grow their assets and increase their overall standing in the market. However, they didn't really plan well, and they never really recovered from the loss of cash flow that they faced. So how do you overcome this? How do you prevent yourself from taking on assets that you just can't afford when you think you can afford it, but you just didn't calculate it right? Well, first of all, you've got to be realistic about the costs. You've got to be realistic. There's a lot of costs involved in starting your business and running it. Again, in the online digital world, a lot of the cost is going to be your time. A lot of the cost is going to be you gaining the knowledge you need to be successful. And a lot of that comes before you purchase anything. So you're going to want to make sure that when you're doing your research to gaining knowledge, to gaining information, to understanding how the markets and things work and how to do these different techniques to sell online, you're going to want to make sure that you don't just go out and buy this random coaching program that's going to be, I don't know, $15,000 and overpromise and underdeliver. Because I'll tell you what, as many qualified and honest people are out there, there's just as many, if not more, dishonest people who are just in it for the money that want to steal from you. You've got to know the value of what you're buying. You have to understand it. You got to do a little bit of research. You can't just haphazardly buy things thinking that it's going to benefit your business and your long-term goals. You want to make sure you create a detailed financial plan. Now, you might need to get help with this from a financial expert, but you're going to want a detailed financial plan. You're going to want to have cash flow projections in there, for at least your first year, preferably further out than that. You're gonna want maybe loans, grants, investors, family can invest in your business. That's okay, as long as you can make sure you pay them back. Because I would never want to put my family at a disparity because I decided to make poor choices and I decided not to follow through. And you want to make sure you always have a cushion for unexpected expenses. You gotta make sure what's coming in doesn't equally go out. You're just breaking even at that point. Income and expenses are equal, you're breaking even. You have to make a profit and you have to have a bit of a savings plan, okay? Like your grandma taught you. Get a little piggy bank and start putting some money in it. Now you don't have to get a physical piggy bank. I recommend going to a good credit union or something like that. But you wanna get your money in a place where maybe it's a high interest savings account, a money market account, something of that nature where you could put your money into it. Not only is it gonna be saved, but it's going to grow. It's going to build interest. And then when you need it, if an emergency arises, you're going to go in and draw from it. But you don't just draw from it and don't put back into it. You need to make sure that whatever you draw from your emergency account, after the emergency and the crisis is over, you have a plan in place to replenish that. Otherwise, when the next emergency comes, you're not gonna be ready. You gotta stay on top of monitoring your cash flow, your income versus your expenses. Now, there are key performance indicators like your profit margins and your accounts receivable that you can look to validate this, okay? Make sure you are constantly monitoring cash flow. You're tracking every single penny. And if you can't do that, and you have the ability, you need to hire the right person who can do that for you. Number 3, you don't really have a good marketing strategy. Now we talked about your product not fitting with the market. We talked about you trying to deliver a product or service into a market that doesn't really want it. But what about strategy? Maybe you've identified a market that really wants your product or service. Well, another reason that businesses fail is they don't have a good strategy to deliver their product or service out into the market. Without a good strategy, even the best products will go unnoticed. And what happens if nobody sees your product or service? You make $0. You don't make any money. You can't be profitable if nobody's buying your stuff, right? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. There are a lot of small businesses that struggle to get the word out. They'll rely on outdated marketing methods. They probably won't use the right platforms in order to share what they have with the world. And in today's digital age, having an effective online presence is essential. We talked about that a little bit earlier. But a lot of small business owners will ignore social media. Maybe they're a little bit older and they're like, you know, it's a daunting task to try to figure out social media. And you can't just give it to your 16-year-old nephew, your 16-year-old niece. You can't just give it to your, 23-year-old little brother, say you're 10 years older, and expect it to just succeed. They might understand more about technology, but they don't necessarily understand about how to properly get the word out through these social media channels. So you're gonna wanna make sure you leverage social media effectively so that it is a barrier point between you and failure. So an example of this, has anyone ever heard of RDO? Maybe some have, but now most haven't because it's no longer around. They failed due to poor marketing. But who did they lose out to? Well, RDO actually lost out to Spotify because to listen to their music, you had to pay a subscription first. You couldn't even get into RDO's music without paying up front. Spotify did a little bit different. They incorporated ads into their service, which allowed them to offer their music for free, but with advertisements. So that drew a lot of people in because they're like, it's free. I listen to the radio all the time. I'll just ignore the ads when they come on. I'm used to it. It's not a big deal. And then later on they launched, hey, by the way, if you want to remove ads, you can pay a subscription service. And then you can listen to it ad free. And then what do you got now? RDO is just kind of gone. They had great service. They had a great product, but they did not have a good marketing strategy. They wanted money up front and you get the benefit later. It just didn't work out for them. Spotify gave benefit up front and they really marketed that out. They sent that out to the youngest generations at the time and it really worked for them. So how can you make sure that you overcome poor marketing strategy? Well, first of all, you gotta have a solid marketing plan. You gotta make sure it aligns with your target market. Who is your customer? You want to go really deep with this. Now, a lot of people will say, identify your target market, and we just make that so generalized. We go and say, oh yeah, this group of people, say, I don't know, hipsters age 20 to 33. That's my target market. But is that specific enough? No, not really. So I want to challenge you right now to identify your target market as being a single person, give them a name, figure out what their interests are. What is it that they truly want from you? What is it they truly want from your service? What is it that they're looking for? What's their problem that you're trying to solve, that you can solve? What's their pain point that your product or service is going to heal, right? Think about it in that term. Make it specific, and you will draw in those specific people. They're looking for you. They're looking for what you provide, but they just don't know where to find it. So if you market it to those specific people, they will draw into you. And again, go into social media. Understand how to do email marketing. Understand how to do SEO. Increase your visibility. Focus on marketing your content. Get on YouTube. Make some videos about your stuff for free. Build trust with your customer. Build engagement with them. Don't overlook traditional marketing, okay? There's a reason we still have billboards. There's a reason you still have television ads and things of that nature. So don't overlook traditional marketing because it still works, but you want to make sure it makes sense for your business and most importantly for your target audience. If you create a billboard that might be good for people who are driving to a big city every single day and you have a billboard on a main freeway, that might be good for them. Your product or service offers something that will help them. That might be good. But if you're thinking about a younger generation who's mostly integrated online in almost everything that they do, you've got to get into online marketing. You've got to get into social media. It is free marketing. I can't say that enough. You have to get into social media. Ensure your strategy is well-rounded. Make sure it's adaptable to your changes in your customers' behavior. They will change over time. As they age, their wants and needs will change. As they have new life experiences, their wants and needs will change. Make sure your product or service is able to reach them at the different stages of their life. And if it's not, you've got to either develop a new product or service or innovate the current one that you have. Number 4. The inability to adapt to market changes. The business world today is constantly changing. And if your business does not adapt, if you fail to adapt, you risk failing altogether because you become irrelevant. So whether it's technological advances that maybe your company needs, or shifts in your consumers' behavior, or economic changes like what happened with COVID-19 5 years ago, or anything like that, those who don't stay on top of trends will fall behind very quickly, especially if you have a physical product. You have to stay on top of trends. You have to think about that. So an example of that is Blockbuster. You could go in and rent VHS, and then later on you could go in and rent DVDs. You could rent video games and all this kind of stuff that they had. They had all these physical stores. They were a huge organization. I mean, they made a lot of money, but they failed to innovate. They failed to adapt to the market needs. Do you ever see a Blockbuster around anymore? No, because Netflix came in and said, hey, we're gonna do digital streaming. Before that, I remember when I was younger, my dad would get DVDs and stuff like that shipped to the house. Netflix said, we'll bring it to you. You don't even have to leave your home. Just go online and order the stuff and we'll send it to you. You don't have to wait in line and hope that the DVD is there. We'll tell you right away. It's not in stock. And Blockbuster failed to innovate and get into the online. They were so stubborn about it, and now they're gone. And Netflix is a multi-billion, I think it is, dollar corporation because they got in early. And now you look at all these other giant corporations like Paramount and Disney and Discovery through Universal and Apple, and they're all creating their own streaming services, and YouTube is getting into a streaming, pay for their streaming, and it's just a big market right now. And Netflix kind of helped lead the charge with that. And those companies that failed to innovate, like Blockbuster and even Hollywood Video, they're really no longer around. So you want to make sure you overcome it, and this is how. You've got to stay competitive by being willing to change. I know that seems easy, but I'm telling you right now, change is very difficult, especially when you're having to change it and lead it yourself. Continuously monitor industry trends. Listen, here's number 1, listen to your customers' feedback. If they're starting to have problems with your product or service, you have to change it or you will not stay around. If you're not making your customers happy, happy, you are not going to be in business for very long. You've got to invest in innovation. You've got to invest in strategies. Whether you're just upgrading your products or improving customer service or utilizing new technologies, you've got to stay flexible in your business model, and you've got to be open to change. Don't let anything be too concrete. The only thing I would recommend keeping concrete are core values that your organization holds dear, that allows you to think about corporate social responsibility where you are benefiting society as a whole, and allows you to think about benefiting your employees and you're making your customers happy and they can see that you're an ethical company. Those things should be concrete, but how you do business and how you do operations, that should be adaptable to the market. Don't be too concrete. Otherwise, you're gonna end up like Blockbuster. Embrace agility and view challenges as opportunities to improve and get better and maybe draw in more customers to you. And tell them what makes your business different. How do you stand out through the noise? Innovate. Otherwise, even if you don't have competition, innovate. Because if you don't innovate, eventually your customers aren't gonna be happy and you'll just be at risk of when finally a new startup comes, they're gonna innovate against you, and you decided not to innovate for so many years. They've been taking your concept and increasing and multiplying it and getting better, and all of a sudden now they come into the market with you and they blow you out of the water. And number 5, lack of business knowledge and lack of skills. While it's really important to improve your organization, it's also really important for you to consistently improve. Many people that have worked with Warren Buffett have said that he's constantly reading, and this guy's a billionaire. He's constantly learning. He's constantly trying to learn new things and grow and develop. So if you lack business skills and you lack knowledge in certain things, you've got to improve. Small business owners wear many hats. You're the CEO, the marketer, the accountant, you're the CFO, you're everything in between. Sometimes even you are operations. Not the COO, where you're chief of operations, but also the one who is doing the physical work. Your passion is essential, but while you have that, a lack of knowledge or experience in certain areas in your business, especially like financial management, operations, how to scale, leadership is a huge one that can significantly contribute to business failure. There are a lot of entrepreneurs that overlook the need for ongoing education. I'm not necessarily telling you to go to college and get a PhD or anything like that. If you want to do that, go for it. Let that be a life goal. Go for it. What I'm telling you is to do your own research, do your own study, understand for yourself how you can grow. And if you're having issues with operations and strategy, this is where I can come in and help. I specialize in helping small business owners and entrepreneurs to develop leadership skills, to develop strategic plans, to develop vision, mission. And I developed a change management model called Cadence, which I'll show in another video, which will help your employees to get on board with you and make positive change the way that you envision it to happen. So how do you overcome it? Well, you could call me for help. You could also invest in continuous learning. Invest in courses and webinars. Make sure you do research on them. Invest in certifications to improve your business knowledge. If you need to, hire consultants, hire experts in the areas where you're struggling. Surround yourself with mentors and advisors who can offer you guidance, who can help you avoid common pitfalls, and network with other small business owners who can provide valuable insights into how they've overcome big problems in their organizations in the past. You're gonna wanna make sure you are part of a community of support, a community of growth. And a great place to do that is if you go on Facebook and look at Develop You, so that you can be part of a community that can show and care and help you develop as a small business owner. Go there, post, ask questions. I will answer, so will other community members. If they have knowledge, they will answer. I know a lot of people on that page that are going to be very valuable because they've been serial entrepreneurs or they've had many successful businesses in the past. So please go there and reach out and you can get actionable help. So in conclusion, running a small business is really never easy. The statistics are stacked against you, but you don't have to be a statistic. If you avoid the 5 pitfalls that I mentioned in this video and pay attention to the overcoming strategies for each of those, you can be successful in 2025 with your small business. You've got to be proactive. You've got to understand that you've got to take risks, but they have to be well-balanced risks. They have to be balanced with reward. Conduct thorough market research, ensure that your finances are solid, develop a strong marketing strategy, stay adaptable, and never stop learning and personally growing. Success does not come overnight, but with dedication and the right strategies that you implement, your business can not only survive, it will thrive. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you there.